My wife just told me she's pregnant, and the news hit me like a freight train, but not for the reason you might think. You see, I can't have kids. It's impossible. So, how is Devin, my wife, suddenly expecting a baby? That's when the truth began unraveling, piece by piece. Devin has been having an affair. And not just with anyone, no. She's been with my best friend, Jeff. The man I've trusted like a brother my entire life. You might be wondering how I know all this. Well, let me take you back. Years ago, during my first marriage, I made a decision: no more kids. My ex-wife and I had two beautiful children, a daughter when we were 21 and a son 3 years later. We even went through the heartbreak of a miscarriage between them. After our son, we both agreed our family was complete. So, I quietly scheduled a vasectomy. It was a simple procedure, a quick recovery, and something I didn't feel the need to announce to the world. Nobody knew, not even my closest friends. Fast forward to now, and that vasectomy has come back to haunt me. Some might argue, oh, vasectomies aren't foolproof. There's still a tiny chance. Sure, technically, they're right. But Devin and I didn't leave this to chance, we tested. That child isn't mine. The betrayal cuts even deeper because of who Jeff is, or was, to me. We grew up together, went to school together, even joined the police force together. We were inseparable, best men at each other's weddings. We weren't just friends, we were family. When Jeff's world fell apart earlier this year, I was the first to step in. His wife, Amy, blindsided him with a divorce and took their kids across the country to Ontario. Jeff was crushed, devastated beyond words. He leaned on me, and I didn't hesitate to help. That's what brothers do, right? At first, Jeff stayed with us temporarily. Or so we thought. Temporary turned into weeks, then months. Devin, ever the generous soul, suggested we renovate the garage into a livable suite for him. I agreed, it felt like the right thing to do. Jeff was grateful, even eager to help with the renovations, turning the space into something of his own. It was a bit of a hassle, sure, but at least it gave Devin and me our privacy back. Or so I thought. Devin, my wild, vibrant, adventurous Devin. We met after my divorce from Trish, my first wife. Devin was everything I needed at the time: fun, spontaneous, someone who lived life on her terms. We shared the same passions: motorcycles, hunting, the great outdoors. She wasn't the marrying type, which suited me just fine at first. And when she said she didn't want kids, I felt like I'd hit the jackpot. There was no need to bring up my vasectomy, no awkward conversations. She adored my kids from my first marriage, and that was enough for her, or so I believed. Our relationship was electric, easy. When I finally decided to propose, it felt like the natural next step. Our wedding wasn't some grand affair. It was a simple backyard ceremony with a bonfire and barbecue, surrounded by the people we loved most. It was perfect. For a while, so was our life. Then came Jeff's divorce, his move into our home, and the shift I couldn't quite put my finger on. Jeff worked different shifts than I did, which meant he and Devin were often alone together. At first, I dismissed it as her just being kind, supportive during his tough time. But then, little things started gnawing at me, their inside jokes, the stolen glances, the growing ease between them that felt off. Looking back, the signs were all there, like scattered breadcrumbs leading to the truth. And now, here I am, staring at a positive pregnancy test that can't possibly be mine, unraveling the life I thought I had. Things were starting to feel off. I'd text her during the day, just casual stuff: how's your day going? And she'd reply with, oh, Jeff and I are out grabbing lunch, or Jeff and I are just running errands. Jeff. It felt strange. But then, it escalated. They started going to the movies together. Concerts. And when I was home, little things began to stand out. He'd touch her arm when she talked to him. She'd laugh and touch his bicep, like it was instinct. She'd dish up food for him at dinner, but not for me. And then, there were her constant comments: Jeff told me this, or Jeff said the funniest thing. Red flags were waving, and they weren't subtle. Even though he was staying in the garage suite, they'd text late into the night, long after most people would have said goodnight. I'd be lying next to her in bed, hearing her giggle while typing away on her phone. I'd try to spark something, give her a massage to set the mood, but she wouldn't be interested. She'd just keep texting him. Eventually, I'd give up, roll over, and drift off while she was still engrossed in her little world with Jeff. Then there were the gifts. Jeff gave her bath sets, complete with little extras. One included massage oil. I noticed, a week later, that the bottle had been opened and used. But it hadn't been used on her by me. At first, I convinced myself she might have just used it as lotion. But the smell of that oil? It was distinct. I caught whiffs of it on Jeff a couple of times. I didn't say anything, but the mental notes were piling up. Then came the bombshell. One night, we were lying in bed, and she suddenly turned to me, all serious. "I want a baby," she said. My head snapped toward her. "What?" I asked. She repeated it. "I think we should have a baby. You know, before we're too old." My heart sank. "Devin," I replied, "I don't know about this." She bristled. "What do you mean you don't know?" I tried reasoning with her. A baby is a huge commitment, time, energy. I thought we agreed this wasn't for us. She shot back, defensive. "I'm not allowed to change my mind? You're telling me I can't be a mom?" I tried to calm things down. "That's not what I'm saying at all. Let's just take some time, talk this over tomorrow." She stormed out of the room, furious. And in that moment, I didn't have the heart or the courage to tell her the truth. I'd had a vasectomy. Having a child with her wasn't even possible unless I reversed it, and even then, there were no guarantees. Something about the entire conversation felt off. Why now? She'd never expressed interest in this before. My gut told me something was wrong. But instead of confronting her, I played along. The next day, I apologized. "You're right," I told her, "let's do it. Let's have a baby." Her reaction? She literally jumped for joy. And that day, we tried. 5 times. A week later, she handed me a small box. Inside was a positive pregnancy test. My chest tightened. I should have been happy, but all I felt was dread. I knew the timeline didn't add up. Could you even know you're pregnant just a week later? I wasn't sure, but my instincts were screaming. The baby couldn't be mine. It had to be Jeff's. I started watching them more closely. We had agreed not to tell anyone about the pregnancy right away, but when I caught Jeff grazing her belly with his hand, my suspicions exploded. He touched her stomach in a way that didn't feel friendly. I pretended not to notice, but it was another piece of evidence to add to the growing pile. A few weeks later, Devin told me she had a doctor's appointment to confirm the pregnancy. Jeff offered to drive her, claiming he had errands nearby. That was my breaking point. "No need," I said. "I'm taking the day off. I want to be there." Her reaction? A weak smile. "You don't have to," she tried to argue. I pushed back. "I'm the father. I want to be there." She couldn't refuse. At the appointment, the doctor asked about her conception date. Devin gave the date of one of our recent encounters. The doctor ran some tests, performed an ultrasound, and then came back with the results. "You're 12 weeks along," she announced. My head spun. 12 weeks? That wasn't possible. I glanced at Devin, feigning surprise. "Doc, are you sure?" Devin played along, wide-eyed and shocked. "Wow, a miracle," the doctor said, smiling warmly. We left the clinic, and Devin gushed about fate and miracles, wrapping it all in excitement. I played along, pretending to share her joy. That night, we were intimate again, but the weight of everything crushed me. As she drifted off to sleep beside me, I stared at the ceiling, the truth like a storm brewing in my chest. The next day, I knew I couldn't keep pretending. The sun barely kissed the horizon when I saw my opportunity. She had a wedding job early in the morning, and Jeff had to head to work too. Perfect. The house was quiet, and my mind was anything but. Fueled by a simmering rage, I packed up every piece of her belongings, each item feeling heavier than the last, weighed down by the betrayal they represented. The trailer became a vault of discarded memories, parked conspicuously on the street for all to see. But I wasn't stopping there. With a spare key to Jeff's suite, I marched into his space, packed his belongings too, and piled them into the same trailer. A heavy-duty lock snapped into place on the garage suite, sealing his access. My home, my rules now. When Devin returned, confusion washed over her face as she saw the trailer sitting there like an ominous monument. She tried the front door, but I had already changed the locks and reset the garage password. She pounded on the door, her fists echoing with desperation. Through the doorbell camera, I spoke, my voice steady and cold, "We're done. I know the baby isn't mine." Her reaction was explosive, tears streaming, voice trembling, disbelief radiating off her. "You're crazy," she screamed. "How could you even think that?" But I wasn't budging. "This baby isn't mine. It's Jeff's," I shot back. Her deflection only made my resolve stronger. "Why would it be Jeff's?" she demanded, her voice cracking. "How could it not be yours?" I took a deep breath, then delivered the blow. "Because I had a vasectomy," I said, my words sharp enough to slice through her facade. Her purse and bag slipped from her hands as the truth hit her like a freight train. She stammered, tried to string words together, but I cut her off. "Save it. We're done. I've already packed your things. Get out." In a panic, she called someone. I didn't need a crystal ball to know it was Jeff. Minutes later, he pulled up in a patrol car, stepping out with false bravado. He tried to turn the tables, calling me crazy, insisting the baby wasn't his. "We'll see," I said, my tone daring him. "Let's wait for the paternity test." For those wondering how she never suspected anything before, let me explain. She'd always been on birth control, supposedly for PCOS. That was her excuse when swapping brands and, conveniently, accidentally getting pregnant. Timing, right? And Devin had her quirks. She despised certain aspects of intimacy, refusing any real chance of conception with me. But none of that mattered now. The damage was done. Fast forward. Divorce papers are filed. Another failed marriage added to my growing collection. Devin finally got the paternity test, and the results were as I suspected, the baby was Jeff's. Turns out, he knew all along, playing along like some shady puppet master. His plan? Hide in the garage suite, raise his kid as Uncle Jeff, and hope I'd never catch on. A friend of mine stepped in and pulled some strings, getting Jeff transferred to a remote northern town. Poetic justice. Devin, ever the accomplice to her own downfall, followed him there, leaving behind the wreckage of our lives. And me? I'm just picking up the pieces. Spending time with my kids. Rebuilding. Trish, an old friend, checks in every day, a beacon of kindness in the storm. Life moves forward, one step at a time. This saga? A brutal lesson in betrayal, a reminder that even the strongest foundations can crumble. But it's also proof that sometimes the truth finds its way out, no matter how well it's hidden. What about you? What would you have done in my shoes? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And as always, thanks for being here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you're in the loop for the next chapter. Until next time, stay sharp.